The FIA has come under intense scrutiny following its recent actions, drawing criticism from prominent figures such as Toto Wolff and Andrea Stella. In response, Mohammed bin Sulayem delivered a notably sharp rebuke, which could heighten tensions between the governing body and the teams. Meanwhile, the FIA has implemented significant internal reforms, including the appointment of a notably stringent race director. This shift was evident during the Qatar Grand Prix, where unusually severe penalties marked a potential turning point in enforcement standards. The key question now is whether teams and drivers will adapt to this stricter approach moving forward. The Qatar Grand Prix has emerged as one of the most contentious races of the season, drawing sharp criticism from teams like McLaren and Mercedes over the decisions made by the race director. A series of penalties, described as unusually severe and unfamiliar to the drivers, highlighted a marked shift in the FIA's regulatory stance. This change in approach has left drivers and teams grappling with the need to adapt, whether willingly or reluctantly. With the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix just around the corner, further adjustments to this stricter enforcement style seem inevitable. This controversy did not arise in isolation, but followed a significant restructuring within the FIA's leadership and operational framework. These changes have led to heightened scrutiny and concern over the governing body's direction. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff weighed in on the situation, noting the magnitude of the upheaval and hinting at its dramatic nature. He quipped that the ongoing changes could be the basis for a reality show, highlighting the unprecedented level of internal adjustments. Wolff's comments reflect broader dissatisfaction among the teams. He stated, "Looking at this positively, what's happening right now could easily be turned into a reality show. But as stakeholders in this sport, we have a duty to protect what is truly a holy grail. This requires responsibility, accountability, and transparency, qualities that don't seem evident at the moment. Teams have a shared understanding of what is right or wrong. It's time for everyone to look in the mirror and ask themselves, am I doing what's best for the sport?" Adding to the tension, Mercedes driver George Russell directly called on the FIA to clarify whether they intended to remove specific individuals from within their ranks, underscoring the uncertainty and lack of clarity surrounding the governing body's internal changes. The events surrounding the Qatar Grand Prix and the FIA's restructuring highlight a growing rift between the teams and the governing body. Many stakeholders are calling for a more transparent, consistent, and collaborative approach to ensure Formula One remains not only a pinnacle of motorsport, but also an example of effective governance. Whether the FIA can navigate this challenging period without further alienating teams and drivers remains a critical question as the season heads toward its conclusion. Toto Wolff's recent comments underscore the growing rift between Formula One teams and the FIA, a tension that has been exacerbated by recent trackside incidents. Mercedes, in particular, has voiced its frustration following a series of challenging races. One such example involved Lewis Hamilton, who faced a difficult weekend marked by multiple penalties, a false start, and speeding in the pit lane, resulting in significant setbacks. Disheartened by these events, Hamilton even suggested retiring his car mid-race, a rare display of visible frustration from the seven-time world champion. While these incidents have fueled criticism from teams and fans, the actions of the race director were not necessarily unjustified. Every penalty handed down adhered strictly to the FIA rulebook. What made the situation contentious, however, was the apparent shift in the application of these rules. The level of enforcement displayed by the race director marked a clear departure from the more lenient or discretionary approach of previous seasons. This stricter interpretation of the rules has become a focal point for debate. Teams accustomed to a certain degree of flexibility now find themselves navigating an environment where the smallest infractions are met with uncompromising penalties. While this approach ensures consistency and adherence to regulations, it has also brought about a learning curve for drivers and teams who must quickly adapt to avoid further setbacks. The controversy surrounding these changes reflects a broader tension, the struggle between maintaining fairness and consistency on one hand and preserving the competitive spirit of the sport on the other. Whether the FIA can balance these priorities while repairing its relationship with the teams will be critical as the season progresses. The shift in the FIA's approach to race regulation can largely be attributed to the recent restructuring within the organization, including the appointment of a new race director. This change has brought a more stringent and disciplinary approach to rule enforcement, setting a clear precedent for the future. The aim appears to be to establish consistency in applying the rules across all teams and drivers, even if it means facing backlash from those affected by these stricter measures. As the Formula One community looks toward the upcoming Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the central question is whether teams and drivers will adjust to this new era of rigid rule enforcement. Will they find a way to navigate this shift? Or will the growing tensions between the FIA and its stakeholders continue to intensify? From a broader perspective, the race director's actions were not fundamentally wrong. He simply adhered to the FIA rulebook, ensuring that the regulations were followed to the letter. One significant factor influencing this strict enforcement is the race director's prior experience in Formula 2, a series known for its uncompromising stance on penalties. Rui Marquez, who previously served as the race director in F2, has brought this same approach to Formula 1, carrying over the strict penalties and ensuring that the rules are respected with equal rigor in the top-tier championship. This approach signals a shift toward a more disciplined, no-nonsense style of governance in Formula 1. The key challenge, moving forward, will be whether this style of enforcement proves sustainable and whether it enhances or detracts from the competitive nature of the sport. As teams and drivers adjust, the future of race management under this new regime will continue to unfold. Stella's comments shed light on a crucial aspect of the ongoing debate surrounding the FIA's recent penalty decisions, the issue of proportionality. While he acknowledged that Lando Norris failed to slow down under yellow flags, gaining approximately 0.7 seconds behind Max Verstappen, Stella argued that the real concern was not the penalty itself, but how it was applied in relation to the infraction. According to Stella, if this level of strict discipline is to become the norm in Formula One, it could provoke significant resistance from the teams. Stella expanded on his concerns regarding the penalty process, particularly the lack of specificity and proportionality in how penalties are enforced. He expressed his belief that such discrepancies could have far-reaching consequences, especially in a championship context. Reflecting on the impact of the penalty in the Qatar Grand Prix, he stated, "I'm here acknowledging that, after checking the data, Lando did not slow down. But the lack of specificity and proportionality in the penalties is very concerning. It's also a factor that could have a decisive impact on the championship quest. This is definitely material that the FIA should consider very seriously if we want fairness to remain a fundamental part of racing in Formula One." This statement underscores the growing frustration among teams with the FIA's current approach to rule enforcement. The concern is not just about the penalties themselves, but about whether they are being applied in a way that is consistent and fair, without unfairly influencing the outcome of the championship. The situation highlights the broader tension between the teams and the governing body, with fairness, transparency, and consistency now central issues in the ongoing dialogue between F1 stakeholders and the FIA. As Formula One continues to evolve, the way the governing body balances discipline with proportionality will be crucial in maintaining the trust of teams, drivers, and fans alike. "This is an important business," Stella remarked, highlighting the significant commitment from every team and all parties involved in Formula One. He stressed the need to ensure that the sport is run with fundamental principles of proportionality and specificity when penalties are applied. Otherwise, he warned, the consequences could spiral out of control. Stella went further, expressing his belief that the current situation felt arbitrary and inconsistent, stating, "To me, it looks like somewhere there must be a book with a lot of dust on the cover that someone suddenly decided to take out and apply. The situation feels arbitrary and inconsistent." This critique of the FIA's penalty system gained unexpected support from Toto Wolff, who agreed that penalties of this nature could have far-reaching consequences, potentially altering the course of the championship, with the drivers' standings remaining tightly contested. Oscar Piastri, only 8 points behind Lando Norris for second place. Wolff highlighted the stakes heading into the final race of the season. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren holds a slender 21-point lead over their rivals, adding further intensity to the competition. The tight battle for both championships sets the stage for an exciting, high-stakes weekend in Abu Dhabi. However, Wolff voiced concerns that penalties, like the one handed to Norris in Qatar, could undermine the integrity of the championship fight. He stressed the critical importance of consistency and fairness in the application of rules, especially as the season reaches its dramatic conclusion. With so much on the line in both the drivers' and constructors' standings, the growing call for more transparent and proportionate penalty enforcement reflects broader anxieties about the fairness and consistency of the sport as it moves into the final race. The stage is set for an intensely competitive weekend in Abu Dhabi, with the championship battle still very much in play. However, Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team principal, voiced concerns over the penalty handed to Lando Norris in Qatar, which he believes was unnecessarily harsh, especially given the high stakes at this point in the season. Reflecting on the penalty, Wolff stated, "The penalties were brutal, particularly for McLaren, and they could cost them the championship. I don't know the full details of the infringement, but the most important thing is that there is consistency. If the race director comes in with a hard stance, that's okay. As long as everybody knows it's a hard stance and understands they have to comply." Wolff's comments highlight the tension surrounding the consistency of penalties and the importance of clear, predictable enforcement. While he acknowledged that the race director has the authority to take a strict approach, he emphasized that the key issue is ensuring that teams and drivers are fully aware of and able to adapt to these rules. Inconsistent or unexpected penalties could significantly impact the outcome of the season, especially when so much is riding on the final race. However, this is not the only point of dispute. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has shown little patience for criticism directed at the governing body. Former FIA employee Tim Meyer has suggested that Ben Sulayem tends to take such criticism personally, further intensifying the conflict. The tension grew when George Russell, speaking on behalf of the GPDA, sarcastically commented on the driver's need to know who Ben Sulayem might target next. In response, Ben Sulayem dismissed the criticism without any signs of concession. Addressing the GPDA's remarks, he stated, "That's none of the driver's business. I'm sorry. With all due respect, I am a driver myself, and I respect the drivers, but they should focus on what they do best, which is racing. You want to know how much we've invested in grassroots? Let me give you a figure, 1.3 million euros in 2024 alone. So far, we've spent over 10 million euros on grassroots karting. This is our business, and we'll do what's best for the FIA. It's really none of their concern." Ben Sulayem's stern response highlights the deepening divide between the drivers and the FIA. The organization's leadership approach, along with recent controversies, remains a central point of criticism as the season nears its end. FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem has strongly defended the organization's independence, asserting, "It's really none of people's business to interfere in ours. It's the results that we produce that matter. Do we have to inform the teams when someone on their side changes? Do they inform us? No, they don't. And nobody has to. We have our rules, and we follow them. We don't follow someone else's rules. It's as simple as that." Ben Sulayem further emphasized the FIA's significant investments in various initiatives. He pointed out that the organization has financed 70 motorsport safety projects at a cost of 2.7 million euros and allocated 1.9 million euros for operational safety and medical expenses at FIA World Championship events. According to Ben Sulayem, these projects show that the FIA is responsibly utilizing funds collected from penalties and fines. His statement also addressed past criticisms, such as Sebastian Vettel's sarcastic remark in 2021, when he suggested that fines collected by the FIA, like the one he received for touching Lewis Hamilton's rear wing in Brazil, could fund a nice dinner for the stewards, possibly with an invitation for him as well. While tensions between the FIA and the teams remain high, Mercedes' Toto Wolff adopted a more neutral stance, suggesting that the focus on pressure surrounding Ben Sulayem should not overshadow the positive aspects of the sport's progress. Wolff remarked, "As long as the drivers are seeing the benefits of these changes, that's what truly matters. It's what brings life to the sport." Wolff also expressed that the president's authority over internal changes should not be questioned. "I think Ben can fire as many people as he wants. It's his organization, and he is the president. That's not something anybody else should interfere with." What matters is ensuring that these changes lead to a better future for the sport. Despite the ongoing friction, there are signs of cooperation between Formula One and the FIA, suggesting that while the relationship is strained, it is far from beyond repair. Toto Wolff further reflected on the changes within the FIA, emphasizing the importance of their impact on the sport. Where it becomes important for the drivers and all of us is, does it make the decision-making process better? Does it improve the regulations? Is the sport evolving in a positive direction because of these organizational and personnel changes? If the answer to all of that is yes, then it remains an internal matter that Ben Sulayem has to handle. But when it spills over into the news and generates negativity or impacts the FIA's reputation, that becomes a problem for all of us. The ongoing discussion raises crucial questions. Are the concerns raised by the team principals of McLaren and Mercedes valid? And more importantly, will these changes within the FIA, along with the appointment of a new race director, lead to a broader transformation of Formula One, not just for the remainder of 2024, but for the 2025 season as well? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the news of the world of Formula One. See you in the next videos.